Christine Brennan, thanks so much for joining us today. I'm so excited to talk about your new book.
Oh, I am too. Thanks for having me. It's great to see you.
Yes, On Her Game, Caitlin Clark and the Revolution in Women's Sport. I'm just so fascinated. How did this book come about?
It was really surprising. It was actually a year ago right now. It kind of just hit me that should someone be doing a book on Caitlin Clark? And if someone should be, why not me? And I had been here in Indy for the Olympic swimming trials. So thank you, USA Swimming, for putting the trials in the pool in Lucas Oil.
We did a great job, set a lot of records, very proud of that.
It was magnificent. I've covered every Olympic swimming trial since 1984.
Yes.
Started when I was in kindergarten. But to see that was amazing. Yes. While I was here, my editor said, can you go over and do a couple fever games and write a column or two about Caitlin Clark? I knew Lynn Dunn, the general manager, going back to the early 80s at the Miami Herald when I covered her down there. And she said, come on over, meet Caitlin. Went to a practice, and again, I'm not even thinking of a book, but I'm just, this story, I'd written some columns, I wrote about the Olympic snub, how terrible that was, not putting her on the Olympic team. I broke that news actually for USA Today. So I'd been around, but I'd never met Caitlin, never covered a game until I came here, and then I guess one in Washington. But I came here, now I'm meeting her, talking to her, and again, I'm thinking now, you know, this is something. So I called an editor, an editor and I at Scribner were chatting, emailing back and forth. I never met him before. He actually set up a Zoom call. And as we have this Zoom call that's supposed to be a half hour, it goes 2 hours. The next day he calls me and offers me, sight unseen, no book proposal, a contract to write a Caitlin Clark book. And of course, in less than a year, here it is. And yeah, it just is, she is one of the most amazing stories I've ever seen in sports, and I have covered a lot, Olympics and Super Bowls and Tiger Woods, and it's just it's Caitlin, but it's our country, it's where we are with our daughters and our nieces and the granddaughters, you know, the opportunity for girls and women to play sports. The nation has fallen in love with Title IX, 53 years old, and here she is, the girl next door, America, now all grown up, Caitlin Clark.
Yeah, straight out of Iowa. How did you find her? How cooperative was she with this book? And maybe was this authorized, unauthorized from Caitlin Clark?
Exactly. It is an unauthorized book. I know that sounds ominous. It's not. It's what you want. I'm a journalist, and this is a journalistic look at Caitlin Clark. The questions I ask, I'm not in business with her. You know, we're not in cahoots. She will write her book someday, and it will probably sell millions of copies. And I can't wait to buy it and read it. That is not this book. If I was in business with her, if it was an authorized book, I could never cover her again because we would have worked together in business, and I just couldn't do that ethically. So that was the get-go, from the get-go, unauthorized. She and the entire Fever team, when I arrived on August 16th after the Olympic break to start reporting the book, the next 6 weeks, all the way through the playoffs, they all knew it was for the book. Christy Sides, the coach, said, hey, here it is, book day, you know, starting out. Caitlin knew that. Her agent, I called Caitlin's agent within a day or two of getting the book deal so that she would know. Erin Kane, we talked for about a half hour. I've known her for a long time. There was never a doubt. Always a two-way street with me. I've learned that over the many years I've been doing this. Anyway, Caitlin answered about 40 or 50 of my questions. We did have one meeting where we had met, but that was again in June when I was here for the Olympic trials. And then other than that, it was very small press availabilities, but I got to ask any question I want. Nothing was off limits. She answered everything. She looks you in the eye, old school, 22 going on 40 or 50, as I say in the book. And I asked her about, was she maybe going to endorse Kamala Harris after she liked Taylor Swift's post endorsing Kamala Harris. I asked the questions I would ask of any athlete, anytime, held back on nothing. She held back on nothing. Her answers were direct and straight and forceful. She is quoted extensively in the book, but she did not get a chance to read the book. She and her agent and her family, no opportunity to okay anything. And again, I think that's what the reader wants. And so far, the book's selling great. You're going to get that observer's view of someone, and of course, someone who I think is so important in this country, and is such an incredible role model for girls and boys. I mean, what a terrific person to come along, Anne Marie, at this exact moment. That's Caitlin Clark. And obviously, I tell those stories, but I tell them as a journalist, not as a business partner, not as a fan, but as someone who's covered sports for a long time. and get a chance to write about one of the biggest, best stories I've ever seen.
Yeah, she is, you mentioned the Kamala Harris and the tweet from Taylor Swift and liking that and wondering, you know, that was a big question. Is she going to go political? Is she going to endorse a presidential candidate? Talk a little bit about her response to that, because when I was reading the book, I just thought it was just really profound. It shows what you alluded to earlier, this young athlete with this wisdom in response and able to navigate direct questions.
She is incredible. You and I have interviewed tens of thousands of people probably in our career. And you see someone who's got their act together, who's confident and comfortable, and you know that. You see that in their face and as I'm sure you have many times with people you've interviewed, you say, this, as I said, 22 going on 40 or 50. The Kamala Harris story is an interesting one, because what happened was Taylor Swift, right after the one and only debate between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, Taylor Swift goes on Instagram and endorses Kamala Harris, and also goes on about voting and make sure to register and vote early and everything that she did. I didn't see that post. What I saw on X, Twitter, was a story being written quite quickly about everyone who liked that post. And it included Oprah Winfrey, Jennifer Aniston, Kylie Kelsey, Caitlin Clark. That was the headline. So I did click on that. And so I was in DC. The next day I flew back to Indy, because I was here for every game. And the press availability before the game, you know, there might be some people who say, do you ask an athlete about that before the game? If the athlete is available, the team makes, in this case, Caitlin Clark available, then you can ask her anything. Now, I would not, you know, I mean, there's things that you would never ask as a journalist because they have nothing to do with Caitlin Clark. But this is a direct, Caitlin Clark is a superstar. She is a person, I think she's much more than a basketball player, one of the most famous athletes in our country. She's one of the most famous people in our country. And this is out there. And what do? I feel this way all the time about just journalism 101, I guess, is that you go to the athlete, you give them a chance to answer a question. They don't have to answer that question. That's up to them. And so I asked it this way. I said, in fact, I had a big smile as I started. I said, you liked an Instagram post last night that got a lot of attention, because the previous question had been about a corn maze with Caitlin's face in it, and the next question I'm sure was going to be about basketball. So I understand I'm kind of crash landing into this, right? And again, she's 22, and you know, I get it. I totally get everything about where I am and where she is. So then I say, you like this post. What did the post mean to you, and are you potentially going to endorse Kamala Harris for president? Caitlin answered in maybe 30, 40 seconds the first part of the question about what did the post mean to her about voting. She had a very eloquent response about voting last time. She was going to vote this time. Everyone should register to vote. It's such an important thing to do. And then she finished her answer, and she never mentioned anything about Kamala Harris. Totally fine. I never followed up because it was her answer, and I accepted that and respected that answer.
Yeah. It's interesting because when we think about female athletes in this country, it's typically an individual sport. It's been Simone Biles, it's been Venus and Serena, it's been Katie Ledecky, Michaela Schifrin. But now we have Caitlin Clark, and she's member of a team. That's a little bit different dynamic.
Oh, it totally is. And in fact, I think, you know, Caitlin Clark is really that first famous female team sport athlete. I know people will be saying, wait a minute, what about Mia Hamm, and what about, you know,
the women's soccer team, for sure.
And yes, but even then, they didn't break out like this. I mean, Caitlin Clark is a household name in every household in America. Pretty much every household. I guess there might be people who aren't paying attention. But the U.S. women's soccer team, it was the team that then elevated everyone. Again, superstars on that team, for sure. Also, that team was wearing the red, white, and blue of the United States in an international competition, either the World Cup in '99, huge event, seminal moment in Title IX women's sports, written, talked all about it. It's in the book, actually, I deal with it there. Or they played at the Olympic Games, so they're representing the country. It is much easier, I think, for a sports fan who might not necessarily love women's sports to cheer for female athletes representing our country. Caitlin Clark should have represented the country, of course, at the Olympics, and had on some youth basketball teams. But the story of Caitlin Clark is she's wearing not the red, white, and blue. She's wearing the black and gold of Iowa. And then she comes here to Indy, and she's wearing the red and the blue yellow I guess a little too, of the fever. So this is not something you rally around the flag and say, okay, this is our girl, our woman we're going to watch try to win a gold medal like Simone Biles and Katie Ledecky, as you alluded to, or the Williams sisters. This is someone who's playing for Iowa, and then not Jess, but she's playing for a WNBA team that's going to go and play other cities. Never seen anything like it. The most important, most famous, best known female team sport athlete ever, the breakthrough there. And why does that matter? Because we have grown up, I grew up in the suburbs of Toledo. We cheered for the Detroit Tigers, cheered for the Chicago Bears because my dad had a tryout with the Bears years earlier. You cheer for that team. You know, that's what male sports are built on, our pro sports. If women's sports can get to the point where that city's team, as it has happened here for sure, it's happening in Golden State, and, you know, with the Valkyries. If that happens, now you've reached a whole new level of acceptance in our male-dominated mainstream sports world, and that's exactly what's happening here.
Let's talk about that Olympic snub. You broke that story. It was hard to believe here in Indianapolis. You know, she had just joined the Fever, and then we just thought, oh, this is going to be a great storyline, another Hoosier athlete for us to follow, very much like we had followed Tamika Catchings for many years, and she won gold after gold after gold with the team, with Gino as the coach. Tell me about that snub. What was behind that?
Yeah, I really reported the heck out of that for the book. I did break the story that night. Someone read me the list, and I was shocked. I have to admit, I could not believe that the most famous female basketball player on earth was being left off the U.S. team. That USA Basketball did not want Caitlin Clark. I mean, it still is a sentence as I say it now that it's kind of crazy. The reporting, obviously in the book, I report what I know. I will never put something in that I have not confirmed. And when I speculate or bring up issues, I do that a little bit, but maybe in form of a question or just present that to the reader that way. There clearly was a feeling among the committee, which included Dawn Staley, a few other big names in women's basketball, that they didn't want her. And I was able to report from two other sources, not committee members. I heard it from two different people over a course of a few hours, that concern over Caitlin Clark's fan base being upset that she wasn't going to get enough playing time at those Olympics was part of the calculation of the decision to not put her on the Olympic team. As I said, I've covered the Olympics since 1984. Very honored, thrilled, you know, very fortunate to do that. I've never heard something so ridiculous being part of the calculation of picking an Olympic team or athlete. I mean, Katie Ledecky has a big fan base, or Simone Biles. Like, you're concerned if maybe Simone Biles doesn't do the balance beam. I don't even know what that means, right? Except I do know what it means. It means they were looking for excuses to not put Caitlin Clark on the team. We have seen, of course, now we've moved forward, the WNBA and the way that people treat her there. In the book, there's Muffet McGraw, the Notre Dame coach, talking about petty jealousy. Obviously, the race issue, you and I are two white women in America in 2025. We know it is a polarizing issue. The WNBA is 74% black. It has been ignored for decades. And its length of its existence by most people, by most of the, you know, obviously people covered it. But in terms of major league coverage, no, it didn't get it. Now the white woman from Iowa comes in, and now it gets that coverage. That is a worthy conversation to have. Whatever side of that issue you're on, you can see a scenario where that could rub people the wrong way. You and I will never know what it is like to be black, so I know what I know what I don't know, and that's why I have so many voices in the book talking about these issues. And by the way, Caitlin Clark fans, you know, people like Dr. Harry Edwards, civil rights leader, Brianna Scurry, the goalkeeper for the '99 women's soccer team, the first black superstar on that very famous team. But I think it all was wrapped into that. I think the idea of, like, you're going to wait your turn. You know, yes, you've made a huge splash, but we know what we're doing here on this team, and we're going to bring 42-year-old Diana Taurasi, who's been injured for 4 games right before the decision, and we're going to give her a going-away present of another Olympic gold medal, her 6th, the record for anyone with 6 gold medals. Meanwhile, allowed me to write a sentence that I did enjoy writing, which was,
I love this sentence about the playing time. I know what it's going to be.
There you go.
You got to deliver it for the viewer.
Yeah,
here.
you bet. So in the gold medal game, which by the way was ragged, the U.S. won by 1 point and almost lost that game. Diana Taurasi and Caitlin Clark played the same number of minutes and scored the same number of points. 0 and 0. Diana Taurasi was sitting on the bench courtside in Paris. Caitlin Clark was 4,000 miles away in the United States. I mean, and also, obviously, fun to say that. Yes, you want to win the gold medal. They won the gold medal. They've won every gold medal since 1996. One of the mission statements of USA Basketball is to grow the game. You've got the attention magnet of all attention magnets, Caitlin Clark. You can bring her, and I had journalists from Brazil and journalists from England. Gosh, we wish she was here. I was going to cover the team, now I'm not. Think of the opportunity missed. All the girls in Africa, in Europe, wherever, far-flung, who would have seen games, to watch the woman flinging it from the parking lot, and it's going in, eyeballs on Caitlin Clark, who then, of course, would have seen all these other players, majority black players, who could have been inspirations for those girls, say, in Africa. All of that was given away, just frittered away, and they absolutely blew it. It was a bad decision at the time. I said it then, I'm saying it now. I think it looks worse now. Because why is the NHL stopping its season and going to have its players play in the Olympics in Milan next year? Because you want to grow your game globally. To have Caitlin Clark, that it would be, most organizations would be salivating to be able to take her on the road with a USA jersey. And USA Basketball instead said, no, we don't want her. And that is just an absolutely egregious decision. As I said, the worst Olympic team selection decision I have ever seen.
And the ratings showed that too.
They did. According to NBC, that was the worst rated, worst viewed women's gold medal game, obviously all involving the United States, since the 2008 Beijing Olympics. So the ratings went down for women's basketball. The day before, women's soccer played in the morning as well, time difference, of course, with Paris. They were a little later in the morning. Women's soccer was going up, had its best ratings since 2004, and women's basketball went down. I went to a game, there were probably 20 journalists there. The night before for the men's basketball, there were over 100. As many of us said, if Caitlin Clark had been there, you would have had equal or not even more journalists to cover Caitlin Clark. Again, just the opportunity, we know the viewership, 4 million more watched Caitlin Clark, Iowa against South Carolina in the women's Final Four in 2024, the final game, 4 million more than the next night with the men in their national championship game. 4 million more viewers. That was sitting on the table right there for NBC, for all their networks, for USA Basketball, and NBC wanted her desperately to be there. And all of that, and a committee of 6 people said, nope, we're not doing it.
Oh, they threw her a bone for the 3-on-3 though.
They did. They offered her the 3-on-3. Actually, they were kind of talking about that even before the decision on the 5-on-5, and she said no. And it's a fun little. I went to a game, and the music's blaring, and there's a DJ. Right. I mean, of course, Caitlin Clark said no to that. It's kind of goofy.
She's a serious competitor.
She
wants to play the game.
Well, and again, she is the biggest name in the world in 5-on-5. Why on earth would you accept the 3-on-3 consolation prize? It was better for her to take the time off, but that was her choice. I know a lot of people have said, well, it turned out the rest was good for her and the taking the break. Absolutely. But is that USA Basketball's decision? Do they make decisions for a woman's body and a woman's health? Or does Caitlin Clark make those decisions? And so the notion that, Big Brother made a good decision for Caitlin Clark, I can't even believe I hear journalists say that. Because on so many other issues, they would, of course, be the opposite on that issue with women. So it's stunning how people wanted to apologize for USA Basketball or say, no, that's the right decision. But these are the same people who are not happy with the book or not happy that there's a Caitlin Clark book. I'm shocked there aren't 15 Caitlin Clark books, 20 Caitlin Clark books. She's one of the most famous people in the country. And I'm honored that I have this one, and there's a couple other paperbacks and other books out there about Iowa and whatever. But the notion that you're jealous or upset about this, again, would anyone in the NFL be upset that there were books on Tom Brady? I would literally be at golf tournaments, and the golf writer to my right and the golf writer to my left were asking questions of Tiger, and they're both working on books, and no one cared. Why is the WNBA just so upset to have this story told by a journalist, me, who, by the way, they've known since the inception of the league in 1997?
Well, you brought up a couple things there I want to follow up on, and one of them was about the rest for Caitlin and for her body to get a break. And now we've seen injuries this season that have kept her out of games, which is really unprecedented in her career. You have thoughts on that?
I do. I'm sure, like many people watching us, it's like, why is this happening? She had the rest that she didn't have last year. She was never injured last year. I mean, she was stapled, and mutilated, and pounded and everything else that happened to her, but she always got up and kept playing and played great. I mean, obviously one of the great seasons ever for a rookie or anyone in the league. And so this year she has all this time, bulks up a little bit. Obviously, the picture of her arms, and she was talking about her arms. And now she's been injured twice, both the quadriceps and then the groin. Her last time she missed a game prior to this year was her sophomore year of high school. So, right, all junior year, senior year of high school, all 4 years at Iowa, even with migraines. Sometimes she didn't feel great, she played. And of course, she feels a responsibility, which again, who says that in college? I know people are coming to watch me, so I will definitely play even though I don't feel great, because they paid money and I want to give them the opportunity to see me play. I mean, again, that's the maturity that I haven't seen in most NFL players, most NBA. It's a very rare athlete at any age to be that mature and that aware and that appreciative publicly of the support and knowing their role as a role model to help grow the game, which again is of course Caitlin Clark. So what is it? I'm not going to speculate, of course, on why an athlete's injured. I'm sure you feel the same way. We interview doctors, we interview the athlete, we might interview a family member. All three of those groups are not talking about this. So it's Caitlin's story to tell, but I just don't understand how you're rested and you're feeling great. And of course, she was injured even for that first preseason game. So something obviously came up, and whether it's connected, because it was both the left leg or not, again, we'll wait for her to talk about it at length at some point. But it is strange to me that it's happening now versus when she was getting pummeled by Kennedy Carter and everyone else last year. There you might have thought, okay, she is just taking a beating. She had the whole college season. She had 8 days between the end of the college season and the WNBA draft. Within a few days, she's here with her opening press conference, and then she's practicing. You would have thought that might be where she would have some injury problems. So it is quizzical. We'll get an answer eventually. She'll talk about it, or someone will get into it. And it's her story to tell, though. And she obviously, there's no one who cares about playing more than Caitlin Clark, no one who loves playing more than Caitlin Clark. And as Caitlin says in the book, everywhere, I love practice. I want to practice. She said, most people don't like practice. She loves it. So I'm sure it has been very, very difficult for her, knowing her a little bit, obviously interviewing her and asking questions, seeing her passion for the game, how much she loves to compete. She said, I hate to lose. I want to be the best at everything. It had to be brutal for her to be sitting on the bench, not being able to play.
Right. And then coming back and then losing so dismally on Wednesday was terrible. But so let's talk a little bit about USA Basketball, maybe minimizing Caitlin's wattage, her impact. Do you think the WNBA does the same thing?
I do. I definitely do. I wish the WNBA would not have been afraid of me or this book or whatever feelings they had, and would have participated and answered my questions. I tried with Kathy Engelbert, of course, the commissioner of the WNBA, multiple times, to get her to talk to me. She finally did just answer a couple of questions, got something wrong at the end for 27 minutes, she did her State of the League, game 1 of the playoffs, talking about everything. TV ratings, historic attendance, moving to bigger arenas, and never once, 27 minutes, never once could say the name Caitlin Clark. Astounding. So I called her on that. And she said, I never mentioned other names, and she did, and so she got it wrong in her answer. I mean, I'm a journalist, so I take the answer, but I would have given them a chance. They just didn't even want to come back to talk to me to correct the record. I mean, it's really amazing. But going back, I think they never understood the magnitude of what Caitlin Clark was. I have the WNBA official in the book talking to me. I don't use the person's name. It happened, it's real, 100%. Right when Caitlin announced that she was going to leave Iowa and come into the draft and, of course, come to Indiana, because Fever had the first pick. I talked to this WNBA official. I said, you do realize how big this is? And this official says, yeah, this is the biggest thing to happen to the WNBA since Maya Moore. Maya Moore is a great athlete. great player, 4-time champ, WNBA champ with the Minnesota Lynx. Even better person, social justice, lovely, and of course, young Caitlin Clark's favorite player.
You're a big fan.
Absolutely. Gave her a big hug, ran away from her dad to hug him. And as Maya Moore said, I can't believe one of those kids that I hugged turned out to be Caitlin Clark. I mean, spectacular.
Wonderful.
I mean, like, let's make the movie right
yes,
now, right?
put a bow on it.
That's right. You know, Hallmark, let's call it Hallmark. You know, do they still do Hallmark movies? That's a Hallmark movie. You know, so that's it. But Maya Moore, I said, oh, she's great, but this is like, you know, 1,000 times bigger than Maya Moore.
These are not apples to apples.
No, not even close. I mean, Maya Moore did not, when she played for UConn, did not have 4 million more people watching her than watched the men the next day. I mean, again, when you say this, I think there's people out there who want to be mad at me or whatever, and that's fine. I'm a journalist, absolutely fine. But facts are, funny thing about facts are facts. Maya Moore did not move the needle. Frankly, Caitlin is the needle, so Maya Moore was not the needle. I wish she had been. Of course I wish she had been. For someone who's covered the WNBA the length of their career, I'm not necessarily an advocate for women's sports. I mean, of course I am, but I'm an advocate for coverage of women's sports, right? Which includes covering Marion Jones and Tanya Harding, two of the, the bad guys, bad girls in the sport. Of course, you write what you write, and you do this too. I mean, if it's, if they misbehave or something's wrong or somebody's getting
it is what it is.
Yeah, then you, right. If it's a woman, same as a man. I mean, that's it. But it didn't happen with Maya Moore, and it didn't happen with Cheryl Swoops. Sports fans knew, WNBA fans knew, but in the produce section right now, somewhere right now in the United States, there is a grandmother in the produce section running into a friend, and they're talking about Caitlin Clark somewhere. Either watching the game, if they're in Indy, maybe they're going to come to the game. Caitlin Clark is a topic of conversation in places where sports is almost never discussed, the way Tiger Woods used to be, for sure, the way Michael Jordan was. And the WNBA not seeing that, not realizing that was coming, really stunning when you think about it. Their utter lack of preparation. I do think one of the options there, they never, of course, would tell me. I wanted to dig even deeper. I think the book covers it very well. I'm very pleased with that. But I would have certainly taken quotes from people on this too. But I think one of the possibilities is because it had never happened, because they'd gotten such short shrift in the media, I think they wondered if it was even possible that that day could come for the WNBA. So, but if you're looking at the arenas being filled and people in line in January, February to get in the cold to get into an arena like it was a Taylor Swift concert or a Springsteen concert to watch Caitlin Clark, if you're looking at that, how do you not see that then transferring, especially when Iowa City's a 6-hour drive from Indianapolis, and because she's a Big Ten person, and here we are in Big Ten country, the heart of it, in Chicago, everything's so close. I don't know how you miss it, but they missed it.
Do you think they're going to miss it for WNBA AllStar? I mean, it's in her town. She got to pick her teammates to be on her team. Do you think that now they're ready to cash in on that or not?
Well, the good news is the Pacers Sports and Entertainment Organization, obviously the Fever and Pacers, are in charge, obviously. And so you see the banners of all the players. I mean, I don't think I would have ever seen, I haven't covered a WNBA AllStar game, but I don't think you would ever see other players' banners all over town. Indy does it right. Indy knows how to host events. This is what you do. Indianapolis, if I had an event, I will never have an event, but if I had a huge event, because I'm a journalist and no one wants me to have an event, but if I had an event that I wanted to have in a place, from the Super Bowl to a golf tournament to youth sports to Olympic sports, I'd put it in Indianapolis. It's that great of a city with hotel space and fans and people that adore what comes here. The civic pride combined with the love of sports. Perfect. Perfection.
And walkability.
And
who's your hospitality?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. And I went to Northwestern, but all 3 siblings went to IU, so I am all in. I've spent hundreds of days in my life in Indiana, and I've loved it. So, but anyway, I think the good news is for the All-Star game, it is here, and so Fever Sports or Pacer Sports and Entertainment has got this for sure. And Caitlin's got it. I mean, we saw not only did she draft her team, but then she actually engineered a trade where she traded the coach, Cheryl Reeve, who of course has said far from flattering things about Caitlin over and over again. literally traded the coach so she would have a different, the New York Liberty coach coaching her. I don't think I've ever seen anyone do that, literally live on TV, just do that. So Caitlin really was on top of her game then for sure.
Yeah, putting her strategy out there. Of course, there was a lot of talk of whether or not that she would select Angel Reese to be on her team. And this rivalry certainly is something that is why I believe that it does transcend beyond sports, right? It talks about what's going on in our country, in our nation right now.
It does, and it goes back to that LSU-Iowa game, and there's definitely a rivalry, even though, as both of them say, they play different positions.
It's not a rivalry.
Right? They don't guard each other. They're Angel's 6'3", Caitlin's 6 feet. I mean, they're both tall, of course, but Angel's known for rebounding and being under the basket, and of course, Caitlin's known for coming across the court with the passes and the logo threes, and of course, the ball's in Caitlin's hand more. The eyes are on Caitlin. So I think, though, you're right. I mean, Red Sox, Yankees, Indiana, Purdue, obviously got U.S. against the old Soviets, Michigan, Ohio State, whatever it is. You've got people love rivalries, and so even if you've got to create it a little bit, yes. But in that case, it was Angel following Caitlin around at the end of the game with this mimicking Caitlin, but everyone had it wrong. I don't even blame Angel. Caitlin had done the John Cena "you can't see me" moment gesture, had done it to her bench. She did not do it to an opponent, Haley Van Lith. So Angel then following around doing it to her to kind of taunt her and return the favor, but Caitlin did not do it to an opponent. So Angel, I don't think, knew that because we found out a month or two later. That's in the book. Haley Van Lith said, no, it wasn't at me. She just hit a three over my head. No, it was to her bench. So that whole thing, the premise there was all wrong. And then also showing the ring finger. I'm going to have this ring. But that was at the end of the game. And I know there are people out there that say, well, hey, Angel created Caitlin. I find that absolutely preposterous. Caitlin was already getting amazing ratings. People were watching her in college prior to that game. The semifinal with Iowa and South Carolina, one of Caitlin's finest hours, of course, 41 points and just, absolutely a great upset over South Carolina. That game had higher TV ratings than the previous year's final, which was South Carolina and UConn. Not exactly bad teams, blue
Right.
bloods all the way, right? So Caitlin Clark and Iowa already have a higher viewership. Then it's Caitlin and Angel. And that, of course, all the histrionics and the rivalry moments were at the very end of the game. So that audience was already there. And I like Angel Reese. I'm not being critical of Angel Reese. I would say this about an NFL situation or a college situation. Somehow when you're talking about the WNBA, people are upset that you're just telling the truth. This is the truth. It's Caitlin Clark. Angel is fantastic. But Angel, of course, can't sell out her own home arena in Chicago once or twice last year, 11,000 seat, unless the Fever and Caitlin came to town. I wish Angel Reese could sell out that arena. And when I say Angel, of course, and the Sky. And we know from a few weeks ago when they moved to the United Center, Caitlin was injured, and the $100-some tickets all of a sudden plummeted through the floor to $9 and then $3. That's Angel Reese's home city. Again, I don't hate Angel Reese. I feel like I have to say this because somehow everyone seems to take this personally. Data is data, numbers are numbers, facts are facts. This is how I've covered things throughout the entirety of my career. Angel Reese, her town, if it's Angel and Caitlin equal, if that's what some people are saying, then how on earth did those prices drop down to $9, $3, whatever? Why weren't they still hundreds of dollars? Because Angel, of course, was playing in that game. And then you throw in race, and then everyone gets very angry. I respect that completely. But if you're giving respect to the news, to the story, to the truth, that's the truth. And no one has written more about the issues of black athletes, Colin Kaepernick, Black Lives Matter, written about and talked about on CNN, ABC, other places, than me. So people can come at me all they want, but it's mind-boggling to me that people don't see the difference between the two. And again, that's fine, because Angel is a superstar, but she does not drive the TV ratings the way Caitlin does, and she's nowhere near the attendance. And one last thing on that, in Washington last year, they played back-to-back. So Chicago came to Washington one night, and then Caitlin and the Fever the next night. Angel Reese's game, 10,000. They had an even amount. Curtains up around the rafters of the stadium in Washington. 10,000, that means it was probably an estimate. But 10,000 it was. The next night, 24 hours later, same arena, over 20,000 for Caitlin Clark. I mean, it's Caitlin. It's Caitlin.
She has transcended sports for sure, and this is all really, 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 really big business.
Oh, it is. And what it can be for the WNBA. I mean, when you realize that when Caitlin was out, over half the TV audience disappeared. Well, when that happens, then you realize the magnitude of Caitlin Clark and the collective bargaining agreement. Those players who are like Marina Mabrey, who's plowing into her like a freight train, those same players, they need her desperately in negotiations, because the owners can say, hey, without Caitlin Clark, you know, you've lost over half the TV viewership. You need Caitlin Clark. So that's the conundrum that they're in right now.
And the charter planes.
Absolutely, Caitlin got them. I know this for a fact because it was me asking the question. On a Friday afternoon, I was talking to an NBA official, and I was asking why don't they have charter flights. There were the videos of Caitlin and Aaliyah and everyone going through baggage claim, being looked at like animals at the zoo. It was a terrible look as people filming them. No security, two fever security people, but at that point, anyone in the public could have come in, and obviously people were coming and looking because they were filming it all on their phones. The NBA would never do that with LeBron James. NFL would never do that with Patrick Mahomes. Make them walk through security and then leave security and walk, be so exposed to the public. I asked the question why that was happening. I was going to write a column for USA Today. The NBA official said, "Can you wait through the weekend?" Absolutely, there was no problem. Got more information for you. By Monday, they had charter flights. I'm not taking any credit at all, but clearly a question from a journalist, they didn't have charter flights, and I was being told they definitely did not have charter flights. And then the weekend goes by, and now they have charter flights. Who on earth is making the decisions? How was that not discussed by the WNBA, the NBA working together? NBA owns 60% of the WNBA. How on earth was that not being discussed? You've got a woman that has just drawn 4 million more viewers for the women's, the final than the men's, and what? You're just going to? Was it sexism? I don't know. I don't report that. I don't know. Was it just cluelessness? But it's the NBA as well as the WNBA. It's still here. We are over a year after that, and it still is astonishing to me that whoever it was in the leadership of both those leagues was so clueless about what Caitlin Clark meant to them. The potential, also, of course, the security that she needs. Not just one of the most famous basketball players, as I said, one of the most famous people in this country, and they're treating her just like, just business as usual in the WNBA. That was a huge mistake, and we continue to see those mistakes, even to the point where Kathy Engelbert, after you watch that Marina Mabrey cheap shot hit, and you watch the referees completely screw it up and not kick her out of the game right then. If you're a leader, lead. Get out there the next day and say, that's unacceptable for Caitlin Clark to be hit that way, or anybody, but we're going to start right now. Commissioner's going to make a decision. That's a 2-game suspension. Players Union would have probably squawked, have the conversation, at least do something. This is the moment. This moment may not last forever. We hope all these young girls coming up, Juju Watkins coming back. We hope eventually that this can be the level for the WNBA. But right now we're seeing it's the level of the WNBA for one person. And this is the moment for the WNBA to take and capitalize on that. And so far, they seem to be so reluctant to do so.
Well, and as we get ready to wrap up here, I want to follow up on that with a comment made by Coach Stephanie White, who was indicating that the league is changing. We are growing. We are making steps forward, and the refs have to keep up, essentially.
Oh, without a doubt. And listen, Stephanie White knows more about basketball. She's forgotten more about basketball than I'll ever know. She's great. I know her. We've appeared on some shows together. So yes, when she's saying that, it's real and true, but also trust your own eyes. You've got fans around the country. I'm hearing from them, right? People are buying the book. I'm meeting people at book signings. Love doing that. And the referees is one of the topics that people want to mention the most. And of course, the WNBA doesn't have the finances of the NBA, but something needs to be done to get better refs, put them on the payroll, have it much more like the NBA, because people are watching. This is the moment. Caitlin Clark is the one. Don't shy away from it. Go all in, lean in on it, and do all kinds of things to make your product better, make it stronger, make it more watchable, believable, and then you'll have those fans stick around for a long time.
It's amazing that Erica Wheeler knew that.
Erica Wheeler, absolutely.
She knew it, even though she was going to lose her position.
How about that story? It's one of my favorite stories throughout the book.
Let's wrap up with that, because I think, you know, I think she deserves a little bit of a kudos for that.
I think the world of Erica Wheeler. So 31 years old, black woman, of course, starting point guard for the Fever before Caitlin Clark. Now the Fever draft Caitlin Clark, and that watch party that night with several of the Fever players there, including Erica Wheeler, as they announced the name that everyone knows they're going to announce, and 8,000 people in Gamebridge, which is more than most people came to watch games previously. And Erica Wheeler leaps for joy with, of course, here's Caitlin Clark now is being announced as the draft pick of the Fever. Erica Wheeler leaps for joy at that exact moment she has lost her starting job. But instead of pouting, instead of being mad, instead of leaving, like we saw happen this year, which is unbelievable to me that Dewana Bonner just did that, but she did, Erica Wheeler stays, plays when she's needed, but also, as she said, when you're that first day in school and you don't know anyone, she said, Caitlin Clark came to me, helped me, and she said, I'll be that friend, I'll be that big sister, I'll be the one to look after you. And throughout the season, she was. Pulling her away from trouble if she was close to a technical foul. One time when Caitlin's got a blue streak going with language on the bench, Erica's right there with a towel in her hand, puts the towel in Caitlin's face, right in her mouth, like pie in the face, hilarious. Just an advisor, a friend, a confidant, takes her under her wing. What an amazing story. Caitlin Clark, a white woman, Erica Wheeler, a black woman. Since race is a part of all of this, we all wish it weren't. It is. It's America. It's sports. It's where we are. I'm a realist. This is part of the story, of course. What an uplifting and wonderful story. And as Erica Wheeler said later about social media, she said, I just went off social media. Why do I care about some guy sitting on his couch who doesn't know anything, tweeting at me or whatever? Again, honest, truthful, real, gets it. That's Erica Wheeler. Caitlin Clark could not have had a better role model, big sister, friend. And of course, Erica's now with Seattle. And literally, you've got the situation where when they start to play each other, you've got Caitlin, of course, big hug, storm against the Fever. And they just had a great reunion. And even when Caitlin went down, there was Erica still, now the opponent, with her hand on her, just making sure she's okay. I love that story, and it's throughout the book, and I'm very proud of that.
It's super sweet. What do you see for Caitlin looking forward? I mean, what's your hope?
Well, I hope
What do you project?
Yeah, I hope that she can get back to playing great. Fever can get back to playing great. Not because I'm a fan of the Fever, not at all. I'm an observer, but it's good for the league. Caitlin Clark's success is great for the WNBA. It's pure entertainment. It's everything that the WNBA would hope for. And you want always to see an athlete be able to perform at their best. Caitlin Clark is a magnificent athlete in person. Let's give her that opportunity to showcase that at the highest level as the All-Star game comes along, and then, of course, the second half of the season.
Oh, well, Christine, thank you so much for your time today. I really enjoyed reading this book, and yeah, I wasn't even aware that she was thinking about going to Notre Dame, you know, before staying at Iowa. But I think that was like so key to the story and the development and the star that we see today. I really enjoyed this, and I appreciate your time.
Anne Marie, thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
All right, thank you.